Are you struggling with the Escuela Oficial de Idioma's monologue? I'm going to show you how a native speaker would approach it, and we are starting right now. What's going on, guys? My name is Ben, and if this is your first time here and you want to learn how to speak English with confidence, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So here's an example, guys, of how I would approach a C1 monologue on the topic of consumerism. Now, throughout the video, I'm going to analyze some of the language that I use, and hopefully this will help. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hello, my name is Ben, and today I'm going to examine the topic of consumerism. Now, I'm going to break this down into three sections. The first of which I'm going to ask a question to myself, actually, and that's whether or not I think I'm a responsible consumer. Secondly, I'm going to look at the idea of buying on a whim. Does the internet make it too easy for us to buy excessively? And thirdly, I'm going to look at the role that fair trade plays in our society today. So to begin, I think I have to admit something. In the past, I wasn't really that much of a responsible consumer. I would always buy stuff willy-nilly. The adverb willy-nilly is used to describe something done without direction or at random. For example, the bookshelves were organised willy-nilly, or the cars were parked willy-nilly. Here is an example from the 2008 film Get Smart.
See what I just did? I added an insk at the end of the word, made it sound Russian.
Should have smacked you harder.
Is that your default setting? Do you just punch people in the face willy-nilly? It's Tuesday. I'll punch Max in the face. Ooh, a box of kittens. Time to punch Max in the face.
In this scene, Max is discussing how Anne Hathaway's character, Agent 99, is violent and often punches without any warning or at random.
Do you just punch people in the face willy-nilly? It's Tuesday. I'll punch Max in the face. Ooh, a box of kittens. Time to punch Max in the face.
Now back to the monologue. I would always use a lot of plastic, didn't really care about where my clothes came from. Whereas over time, I suppose, I've educated myself, and now I would like to think that I am a responsible consumer. I've cut down on the plastic that I use. I always have my bag for life, in the supermarket. I do care about where my clothes come from now. I try and practice, mindful buying, not just buying for the sake of buying. I try and always check, the origins of where my clothes come from, and check that, the companies that I buy from are kind of, either it's sourced locally or, they have a good ethical stance when it comes to sort of things like slave labor and things like that. And thirdly, I suppose it's just not over-consuming. It's being aware of the environment and really understanding the problems that we face. If I could go back and change it, I would, but unfortunately I can't. So nowadays it's just about practicing that mindful buying or that mindful consumerism. So that actually leads me very nicely to my next point when talking about buying on a whim. Now, on a whim is an English idiom that means to do something suddenly or impulsively and without careful planning. For example, I decided to buy the dog on a whim. Or, you can't just come here on a whim. Let's take a look at an example from the 2007 film The Holiday.
We've made a great impression on you, haven't we?
No, it's not that. It's just that, I'm not quite myself right now. I came here on a stupid whim. Honestly, I've never thought about anything less. It's very unlike me.
Here the lead character Amanda is explaining that her decision was an impulsive one, and perhaps a little careless.
I came here on a stupid whim. Honestly, I've never thought about anything less. It's very unlike me.
Let's continue with the monologue. Now, in the past, I was a bit of an addict when it came to stuff like Amazon or eBay, buying online, buying pointless electronics. I remember my mum, she would always say, Ben, what are you doing? Why are you buying all this stuff? Think of the environment. And I kind of wish I'd listened to her, actually. I think as I've grown older, I've mellowed out. I've become more aware and more kind of conscious about my buying habits. And I think the internet has a lot to answer for. When we're looking at stuff like the ads and all these personalized ads and things like that, it's very difficult to get away from it. If you're in that cycle, it kind of consumes you and it makes you want to buy more and more. And until I think there's tougher regulations, it's going to be very difficult to combat that. So I think it's impossible to talk about responsible consumerism and not mention fair trade. Fair trade is the future. We have to cut down on the number of products that that we use that harm the environment. I'm not only talking about like palm oil, for example, but also like plastics and other things like that. You know, we have to become an ethical society. The world's just becoming a rubbish tip. If I had $1 for everything that, you know, had palm oil in or that used excessive plastic, I'd be a very rich man. You know, I think in the past not enough was done, and there wasn't enough education or enough thought into, you know, sustainability and responsible consumerism. Hopefully now, as you know, things like Facebook campaigns and awareness on documentaries and things like that, and I suppose just things that you see in the streets, people will start to become more aware and actually support the idea of responsible consumerism. So in conclusion, I think we are ultimately responsible for our environment. I fear as long as companies chase big profits and people chase bargains, nothing's really going to change at a rate that can solve the crisis that we have at the moment. I just hope that in the future, maybe there'll be more education about fair trade products, for example. And I know I can see it in the supermarkets that plastic is becoming a big issue. I just hope maybe the government can do more in the future, maybe tougher regulations, and this in turn will change something. But I think at the moment it's too little, too late. Thank you. So there we are, guys. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings there. Please let me know if there's anything that you would like to see in future videos. And as ever, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.